Welcome this evening at the 9 o'clock time slot in 10.2. I'm very proud to announce Muhaimin, and who will be talking to us about advanced MySQL exploitation. It's not just injection anymore now it's remote execution. So please give me a round of applause for Muhaimin. Thanks.
Hello, good evening everybody. My name is Muhaimin Dzulfakar, and today I'm going to give a presentation called Advanced MySQL Exploitation. So basically it's about how you can conduct a remote code execution and the MySQL platform. So here's a brief introduction about myself. I'm just an independent security researcher, unemployed at the moment, and I'm about to move to United Kingdom after this conference. So basically I will be based in UK after this. And here is my email address, so if you have any question, feel free to drop me an email. So here is our agenda today. We're going to start with the introduction. So in the introductions, we're not going to cover the basic of SQL injection, but what we're going to cover in the introduction is basically the differences between the stack queries and the non-stack queries. And then we will have a remote code execution on the database connected that supports stack query, and also we try to compare with the database connected that do not support stack query. So basically it focuses on 4 different database servers and 3 different applications. And the next one, we have a remote code executions on the LAMP and WAMP platform. So in this part, I'm going to show you how different is it to attack a LAMP and the WAMP platforms. And then the last part is I'm going to demonstrate my tool. It's called MySQL. So these tools, it's used to conduct a remote code executions on the MySQL PHP platform. So let's start. Okay. So I'm sure that most of the people in this room have a clear idea about SQL injection vulnerability. So basically, it's the conditions where you can manipulate SQL statement to the application. So in most cases, you will find that SQL injection normally used to read, modify, and delete database data. But in some cases, it is possible to conduct a remote code execution by attacking this type of vulnerability. So what is stack query? So stack query is a conditions where multiple SQL statements are allowed, and normally they are separated, being separated by semicolons. So stack queries have been commonly abused to write a file on the database server. In the Blackham Amsterdam 2009, a Bernardo Dembele demonstrated how you can conduct a remote code executions by abusing stack queries in some of the database server. And today I'm going to demonstrate how you can conduct a remote code executions on the database connected that do not support stack query. So here are some actions you can perform when you attack the application that supports stack query. So basically, if you can look at this, all of these techniques can lead into remote code executions. And they are required to have a new statement creation. So I'll give some examples here. Table creations is used when we want to create tables and want to store our arbitrary data in these tables. And then a data injection into the table through insert request, that we can simply use the insert request to inject our arbitrary data and store it in the table that we just created. And the byte and byte injection through update and replace syntax, so basically is when you have conditions where your arbitrary data is bigger and you are required to use a multiple request to successfully upload the whole arbitrary data into this table. And then the UDF injection method is a technique where you can create a UDF function that can execute system commands, and basically you can just use the functions to conduct a remote code executions. And creations or execution of new store procedures, basically this is only focused on MySQL. So actually it works similar like a UDF injection method where you can use a store procedure to execute remote code execution on the Microsoft SQL platforms. And then the last one is a privilege escalation. So basically you can use an out-of-band injection technique where you basically connect back into the database server and escalate your privilege from a low privilege user to the high privilege user. So you can see here when you attack the application that supports stack query, so basically you can do many things that can lead you to have a remote code execution. And now, when you look at the non-stack query, right, there's not so many things you can do with it. It's boring and sucks. And most of the time, you will find that you can only abuse the non-stack query by using AND, OR, and unions. And this technique is good enough for a data extraction, but it's not really good enough for a remote code execution. So here is an example of the stack query table here. If you can see, on the top side, we have 3 different types of applications. And on the left side, we have 4 different types of databases. As you can see here, on MySQL, there are only 2 applications that do not support stack query by default, and they are known as ASP and PHP. So what we're going to focus on today, we're going to focus on MySQL PHP, as we all know that the MySQL is widely used with the PHP, and they are part of the software stacks for the LAMP and WAMP environment. And here I'm going to explain on how you can conduct remote code execution on the database connector that supports stack query on some databases, so you have a clear idea the difference between the stack query and non-stack query technique. So basically on Microsoft SQL, it's pretty simple. You can just basically use XP CMD shell to create your arbitrary debug script. And the reason of this is because XP CMD shell does not allow you to write a binary. So basically you need to write a debug script initially. And then you can just simply convert this arbitrary debug script into an executable file. And then you can use the XP CMD shell back to execute this arbitrary data. And here are some limitations. You need to have control server permissions to allow you to execute XP CMD shells. So basically, you will find that most of the database server, when it comes to the remote code executions, you are required to have a high privilege access anyway. And also in the recent version of MySQL, you will find that XP CMD shell is disabled by default. So I think it's yeah. Hello. 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 Hello, I'm back. Thank you. Okay, so we come back here. Okay, so like I mentioned before, you're required to have a super user access